ಈ ವರ್ಕ್ಶಾಪ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಬಹುತೇಕ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಕೂಡ ಸಂಪನ್ಮೂಲ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಯಾಗಿ ಬಂದಂತಹ ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಬ್ಬರು ಕೂಡ ವೃದ್ಧರೇ. ಗಾಬರಿಯಾಗಬೇಡಿ, ವೃದ್ಧರು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ವಯೋವೃದ್ಧರಲ್ಲ, ಜ್ಞಾನ ವೃದ್ಧರು. ಹಾಗೆ ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಈ ಎರಡನೇ ಸೆಷನ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ ಜ್ಞಾನ ವೃದ್ಧರಾಗಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಎನ್.ಎಸ್. ಹರಿನಾರಾಯಣ ಅವರು, ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್, ಡಿಪಾರ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಸ್ಟಡೀಸ್ ಇನ್ ಲೈಬ್ರರಿ ಅಂಡ್ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಸೈನ್ಸ್, ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟಿ ಆಫ್ ಮೈಸೂರು ಅವರನ್ನು ಪ್ರೀತಿಪೂರ್ವಕವಾಗಿ ವೇದಿಕೆಗೆ ಸ್ವಾಗತಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ನಮ್ಮ ಡಿಪಾರ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ನ ಕೋಆರ್ಡಿನೇಟರ್ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಚಿದಾನಂದ ಸರ್ ಅವರು ವೇದಿಕೆಗೆ ಆಗಮಿಸಬೇಕು. ಇಬ್ಬರನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ವೇದಿಕೆಗೆ ಆಹ್ವಾನಿಸುತ್ತಾ ಔಪಚಾರಿಕವಾಗಿ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಹೂ ಕೊಡುವ ಮೂಲಕ ಅವರನ್ನು ಸ್ವಾಗತಿಸಬೇಕು ಎಂಬುದಾಗಿ ಕೋಆರ್ಡಿನೇಟರ್ ಸರ್ ಅವರಲ್ಲಿ ವಿನಂತಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ಸಾಧನೆ ಎನ್ನುವುದು ಜೀವಮಾನದ ಉದ್ದಕ್ಕೂ ನಡೆಯುವಂತಹ ಪ್ರಕ್ರಿಯೆ. ಕಲಿಕೆಯು ಕೂಡ ಅದೇ ರೀತಿಯಾದದ್ದು. ಹಾಗೆ ಅವರ ಶೈಕ್ಷಣಿಕ ಹಾಗೆ ಔದ್ಯೋಗಿಕ ಸಾಧನೆಗಳನ್ನು ತಿಳಿಸುವುದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಮಹಾಲಕ್ಷ್ಮಿ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಅವರಲ್ಲಿ ವಿನಂತಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ.
Good afternoon everyone. Dr. Harinarayana is a university professor with 20 years of teaching experience in library and information science and served as an assistant librarian in Indira Gandhi National University, Delhi for 5 years. Strong philosophy for research and imparting knowledge, was versatile in adopting novel teaching methods and technology to expertise students in the specific area. His core skills, excellent skills in leading include imparting knowledge and analysis of data, critical thinker and strong oral and written communicator. Exemplary leading and motivational skills inside and outside the classroom in helping the students to achieve their goals in academic and personal life. He got gold medal with the first rank in Bachelor of Library Science and Master of Library Science examination and a full-time research fellow with UGC JRF fellowship in 1988. He won the awards like Library Service Award by Karnataka Government and International Travel Fellowship by Australian Research Council and Consortium of Australian Universities, and his administrative experience, highly organized and meticulous, and an active partner to university administration, served as the private secretary to the Vice Chancellor, University of Mysore, and currently appointed as the Director of IQAC of the University of Mysore. He successfully guided 8 PhDs and guiding 8 ongoing doctoral candidates. And Sir published almost 133 articles in international and national academic journals and conference proceedings. He is a dedicated academic mission and resource person for outreach programs of university and delivered 65 invited talks and attended many refresher courses in and outside the university, actively contributing to preparation of self-instructional materials in KSOU and Swayam online teaching platforms, visiting faculty of more than 5 universities outside Karnataka and member of the many editorial committees, especially SRELS and Gyan Ghosh serves as a consultant to local libraries for library automation project. Thank you.
ಸರ್, ಮತ್ತೊಮ್ಮೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಪ್ರೀತಿಪೂರ್ವಕವಾಗಿ ಈ ಸೆಷನ್ಗೆ ಸ್ವಾಗತವನ್ನು ಬಯಸ್ತಾ ಈ ಸೆಷನ್ ಅನ್ನು ಆರಂಭಿಸಬೇಕು ಎಂಬುದಾಗಿ ನಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರ ಪರವಾಗಿ ವಿನಂತಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇವೆ.
I know how difficult to sit through the after the work. Anyway, at the outset, let me thank the organizers for having invited me to interact with you. I love that this gathering is a heterogeneous gathering. People students from various disciplines have gathered here. It's always difficult to meet the expectation of a heterogeneous group. Let me try to address some of the problems that you may be facing. I have been asked to talk about the issues related to publishing in journal, concentrating on raising the issues related to predatory journals. That's the focus of my talk today. Now, I know that all of you are very eager to learn the tips of publishing in a scholarly journal. We are all interested for two reasons. One is, today is the era where we have to say, publish or perish. You either publish or you disappear. Otherwise you will disappear. That's one thing that we have to keep it in mind. Secondly, we are all doing research in one area or the other, and it is mandatory for us to publish at least 2 articles in UGC care listed journals. So we have to take care of UGC care now. Now, I don't know how many of you have already published a few articles in journals. Can you raise your hands? Okay, 2-3 of you. Maybe you have got already some experience of publishing it in journals. So you can help me, supplement me in adding some of the ideas of publishing articles in journals. Others are novices. I just wanted to know from you, how many of you think that publishing it in journal is very difficult proposition? You are talking, don't worry. So what about others who have not raised their hands? They feel very comfortable, then my talk will be very difficult. So how do you find it? So do you think that publishing in journal is difficult?
It's very difficult.
It is very difficult.
Like we have to first find the journal which is suitable for us, and they have to accept it. So I think it would be difficult.
You think it would be difficult? What about you, sir? You have not tried at all. So you will face the music later.
Depend upon journal.
It depends upon the journal. Okay, fine. Let us keep this session a little more interactive. Okay, most of the questions will have only 2 answers, either yes or no. Okay, you can reply either yes or no. Okay, don't sit quiet and stare at me. I get after frightened really. Now, why do you want to publish it in journal? Why not in a conference? Let us put a question, a trivial question like this. Is there any difference between publishing it in a journal and publishing it in a conference? In answer?
Once it is published in a conference proceeding, it cannot be published again in a journal.
In a journal. So why do you insist that it has to be published only in journal?
It has weightage, citation.
What is it?
If I publish my paper in journal, it has weightage.
Okay. Because the UGC, the university have asked us to publish it in journal, they know that I can publish it, submit my thesis. So I have to publish it in journal. In fact, what I suggest is publish a few articles in conferences to start with. There are two advantages. One is you will pick up the writing skill. When you publish the articles in conferences, you don't have to put in all your data in one conference. And try to publish the subsequent ideas in journals. Probably that would be one suggestion that you can take it from me today. And she raised the point that it is difficult for us to find out to which journal I want to publish. I want to send my or submit my manuscript. That's one of the challenging tasks. So normally those who have already published the articles can tell me what criteria that they have chosen for selecting the journal or finding the journal suitable for their research ideas. Anybody? Okay. Theme of the journal. So you will read the theme of the journal. Okay. Content. So if there are, say, some 5 to 6 journals on the same thing, then which one do you choose? Yes, sir. Go ahead. Okay. Indexed articles. Indexed articles. That's what people are saying. Many times what happens is these terminologies many people may not know. He used the word indexed journals. What do I mean by indexed journals? So let me try to clarify those things. See, indexed journals stands means that the journal should have been listed, should have been indexed in certain databases. The popularly accepted databases are Scopus. Have you heard of that? Scopus or Web of Science. And there is one more database which is coming up, and probably UGC can also take note of it very soon, I believe, is Dimensions AI. Dimensions AI. Okay, that is the third one, the third database which is competing with Scopus and Web of Science. Okay, and the fourth one, very recently they have launched is Yes Cite, C-I-T-E, Yes Cite, Smart Citation is called Yes Cite. These are the popular databases. So, if the journals are indexed by these databases, then we can consider that they are good journals and we can publish the articles in them. That is so indexed journals means only this. So whether or not they have been listed or indexed by these databases. And Google Scholar also indexes the journal, but it will not be considered as a standard reference list, because Google has the habit of indexing anything and everything. So Google Scholar's indexed journals are not considered as as a good journal. And thirdly, you might also have heard something about impact factor. Have you heard about it? People say about impact factor and H index. H index. So, how many of you are new to these two words? H index. Do you know about H index? You know or you don't know? You don't know. So, how many of you do not know? I want you to be a little more active. Okay. I will participate along with you, no problems. So, okay. See, raising hand is a kind of habit formation. There are different ways of raising hands. You come here if you want to observe. Some people will raise it like this. Some people will raise like this. Some people like this. And some people will like this. So the most favorite for me is like this, because it will be blessing me. Okay. Now, impact factor is one of the criteria that you need to understand. Maybe by the end of this particular session, you will be learning about impact factor, what exactly it is, where do we get the impact factor from, and how do we understand it, and how can we use it for submitting our publications. These are the aspects let us try to understand. And similarly, H index. H index is roaming around everywhere. So, H index is also a kind of a matrix. Matrix used to identify the contribution level of an author. It is called H index because Hirsch, the person by name Hirsch, has developed this. He is a physicist and he has developed this one. So it is called H index. Just for the sake of your curiosity, I will explain what exactly is an H index. Supposing my H index is 10. Let us assume that my H index is 10. That means that out of the 133 or so articles that Arvind has already told that I have written, out of the 133 articles, 10 of my articles, my H index is 10. 10 of my articles have got at least 10 citations. So, 10 of my articles have got at least 10 citations. Now the question comes, what is citation? Okay, let us first deal with the terminologies, then go to the topic per se. So, what is citation? So, when you write an article, you give at the end of the article references. So, as an author, you are giving references to earlier work. So, they are called references. Now, after you write an article, you will receive, your article will be called citation. Okay, let me make it very clear. Citation is the acknowledgement received from other works. Acknowledgement received from other works. References are the acknowledgement given to other works by you. So, acknowledgement given is called reference. Acknowledgement received is called citation. Say for example, my article, one of my articles, the citation count is 10. If I say, that means that 10 other articles have cited this particular article. So that's the meaning. And always citations are forward looking. Forward looking in the sense that the citations you will receive only after you publish the articles. On the other hand, references are backward looking. When you write an article, you give the references only to those articles which have already been published. So references are backward looking and citations are forward looking. Okay. I hope these concepts I will be using during the presentation. So I have tried to introduce them at the beginning itself. So I have prepared a few slides. I may or I may not go in the same order. So depending upon the interaction that we have, we will not restrict to the order of the slides here. Now, the issue here is we are all interested in publishing in journals. So what are the problems that we may face, how to solve them, and what prospects do we have when we publish the articles in journals? That is the gist of my talk. Publishing in journals is normally referred as scholarly communication. And you can, for the sake of the formality, I have given the definition of scholarly communication. The scholarly communication, an article that we publish in a journal, is a scholarly communication, which means that it is a system through which research and other scholarly writings are created, evaluated for quality. This one is important. Evaluated for quality and disseminated to the scholarly community and preserved for the future use. This evaluated for quality is, I'm insisting, because that is the most problematic area in the communication, the corporate scholarly communication, in journal communication. That we come to that later. And other definitions for scholarly communication. The ideas are generated, reviewed, disseminated, acquired, preserved, discovered, accessed, assimilated for advancement of scholarly communication. Okay, let us go further. And if you look into, if you want to put this scholarly communication life cycle diagram, it may look something like this. The ideas are generated, they are reviewed, they are disseminated, and somebody will acquire it and preserve it, and somebody will search for it, have the access, and assimilate the knowledge. From there again the ideas are generated. This is the life cycle for scholarly communication. Who are the people who are responsible for this scholarly communication, if you can do, you can say that scholars and researchers like you are the authors, and publishers and libraries, scholars and researchers as leaders, and higher education institute as consumer, and research funding agencies because they sponsor your research. These are the people who are interested in the activity of scholarly communication. Because we are talking about the journals, let us look into the history of journal publication a little bit. The very first journal that was published was in 1665. Okay, it was called Philosophical Transaction of the Royal Society. This one. The cover page of the first journal looks something like this. 1665, and journal is for the first academic journal, which was published on the 5th January 1665 in Paris. This one, and in 400 years, less than 400 years, the number of journals that we have is more than 250,000. This is the problem. So we have huge number of journals and huge number of researchers. Vasan was telling about that. India has got 24,000 just scholars. Each one of them have contributed 2 articles each. That means almost 1 lakh, articles from India alone will be published. And number of journals that we have is around 3 lakhs now. Now, when we look into the communication process, you have the very purpose of scholarly communication is to exchange ideas between the scholar, between the author and the reader. There are 2 channels for communication of ideas. One we can call it formal communication channels, and another one is informal communication channels. The ideas, they get circulated through formal as well as informal. Many times the ideas get circulated more often in informal communication channels than the formal communication channels. And journals, they fall in the formal communication channel category. This figure, if you closely observe, the formal communication channels, one of the functions of formal communication channel is the archival function. So whatever you publish in a journal gets archived for posterity. And informal channels may get archived or may not get archived. In fact, Dr. Siddharth was saying that these sessions, they did not plan it earlier to record it. So all of a sudden, they wanted to archive it for future use. So otherwise it would have become just an informal session and without any archival value. Now even if you miss out some of the points that I am saying, you can always refer back because it is getting recorded and it will be available on YouTube for later use. And if you look at the accessibility value of formal and informal channels, you can see that the accessibility increases and as it gets digitized. So, accessibility of print journals will have less accessibility value than the e-journals. E-journals can be accessed more easily, more often than the print journals. So nowadays we are moving towards the databases, e-journals, e-books, etc., etc. The accessibility is not an issue at all now. Now, let us concentrate more on the formal channels of scholarly communication. We have got academic journals. Even if you just say journals, it should be sufficient. But I am deliberately using the word academic because we are talking about academic journals rather than general journals or magazines. And conference proceedings, research monographs, research reports, working papers, theses and dissertation, patents and standards. These are the various channels for scholarly communication. In fact, for literature review, for your research, you have to consult all these types. All these types, you have to include all of them. So mostly, you will be covering the academic journals because of the accessibility. Accessibility because they are more accessible. You will be covering them, and you can also include the conference proceedings in your literature review. You can include the research paragraphs and theses and dissertation, patents and standards, if applicable, and so on and so forth. Now, let us try to define what exactly is an academic journal. A journals are regarded as the main spike in the scholarly communication process. So, you agree with me. You search any databases. So, you will find more journals than books, conference proceedings, patents, theses, etc. etc. And journals or periodicals carrying accounts of research published after due peer review process rather than journalistically based magazine. This peer review process is the point that you need to understand as a researcher. So, how your article gets accepted in a journal? You write an article and send it to a publisher. And the publisher, they will not accept a good publisher, a good journal will not accept the article just like that. He would send your article to a panel of experts. Number of experts that he will be sending depends upon the resources the journal has, the quality the journal wants to maintain. So, your article will be reviewed by 2 or 3 experts. That process is called peer reviewing. The journals which adopts this process of peer reviewing is called refereed journal. And your guide may ask you to publish it in refereed journal. Refereed means a journal which adopts the peer reviewing system is a refereed journal. And then, based on the report of the experts, your article will be published, modified, or rejected. Only 3 things are there. Either it will be accepted directly as this. It is very unlikely that first time it will be accepted. And secondly, the experts will give you certain comments which you will have to incorporate in your manuscript and send them back. And thirdly, is that if it is not up to their standard or it is not relevant to their journal, it will be rejected. Now, the question comes, how would I know whether a journal is peer-reviewed or not? So that's one question that the researcher may face. Simple thing. You go to any issue of a journal, that particular journal, peer-reviewing statement will be there. Or there are certain tools which I will tell you later, where they would give you whether there is a peer-reviewed journal or not. And don't be hesitant to send to the peer-reviewed journals. It is always better to send to the peer-reviewed journals because your presentation, your ideas gets vetted by an expert. And if you publish, say some 9-10 articles in peer-reviewed journal, the 11th article, I'm sure that it will pick up the quality in the first instance itself. So that's why you have to make sure that publish your journals only in peer-reviewed journals. Peer-reviewed journals. Okay. Now we are talking about journals. What are the functions of journals? Why should I publish my ideas in journals? The first thing is you have to get yourself registered for the idea. That means you have to get own the copyright of the idea, the new idea that you have generated. So for establishing the author's precedence and ownership of an idea, that's the first function of a journal. And after doing a lot of research, you want to communicate with the fellow researchers. There's another function of the journals. And certification, ensuring the quality control through peer reviewing and rewarding authors. And lastly, the archival purpose. If somebody wants to read after say 5 years, 10 years, etc., one can do it for future use. They are published in journals. A typical journal will have many components. You can look for an ISSN number. It is not that. ISSN is nothing to do with the quality. Please make sure that and people are under the impression that if a book has an ISBN, it is of some good quality. No. ISBN is just a number. It is a number like an Aadhaar number. So it uniquely identifies that particular journal. Okay, but having an ISSN number is a good thing. And it should consist of peer-reviewed contents. Peer-reviewed contents, we have discussed about it, and should be published on regular basis. And the content should be relevant and readable for an international audience. There's another thing that you need to know. And you should have publication ethics and publication malpractice statement. I think Satraju has already talked about the publication ethics part of it. I am not going to touch upon that. Now the question is, given a journal, how should I know that all these things are met, all these criteria are met? So I am going to introduce to you some of the tools that are available. Easily you can find out all these things. So right from the particular stage of my lecture. Now, what are the different kinds of articles that we can expect in an academic journal? It contains not only research papers, but also contains all these kinds of papers your research literature review also. An academic journal may contain or obviously will contain some research papers and may contain review paper. The article itself is a review. Okay. And feature articles, short communication, opinion papers, and perspective papers, and news, letter to the editors, book reviews, and editorial. And getting a letter to the editor published in journals like Nature and Current Science, etc. is difficult. Just a letter, even getting them published is difficult. I think Vasant has published one or two such letters to the editors in Current Science, I believe. Okay, these are different types of articles you can find in a journal. The question here is, can I consider them for my literature review? Yes, you can. You can. Okay. And I'm just showing you one of the issues of current science, which is quite popular in India. And you can see the correspondence articles, the opinion articles, the general articles, the commentaries, and scientific correspondence, review articles, etc. etc. So these are the different kinds of articles that you may find in a typical good academic journal. Okay, so now you can say that a good academic journal will have many of these kinds of articles. You can define like that. You can identify ourselves. So if it has only research articles, possibly it is not a good journal. Okay. And content page of economic and political weekly, you can see here the editorials, the comments, and the commentaries and other research articles over here. Some of the problems, some of the issues in publishing in a journal. You were discussing about it in the previous session. It takes a lot of time for getting it published. That is because of a lot of articles are being sent to the publisher, and secondly, the review process itself will take a lot of time. So, and barriers to access due to commercial interest. So you may have to pay for it. So, and you may not have resources for it, and you may not also have access to that particular journal. These are some of the problems that the researcher will find in publishing it as part of the publication. And increasing the economic burden to libraries. Libraries cannot acquire all journals, and changes in the information seeking behavior. This is one of the things that is happening nowadays. People now are looking for ideas, not necessarily in journals, but also in social media. And also they are communicating through other channels such as blogs, wikis, and things like that. So, and I'm sure that all these channels will be considered as part of channels in near future. So they are also getting text or something like that. Some system will arrive in next 5 to 10 years. That's what I guess. And what's a good journal? How should I know that a journal is a good journal to publish or not? Some of the parameters. This is not a comprehensive list of parameters. A scholarly journals nowadays will have a website, well-designed, well-informed website. name of the journal is written without any confusion, okay, without any vagueness. The information about the peer review process will be available, and if they are charging the author fee, it will be noted. Just because a journal adopts the author fees, it doesn't mean that it is a predatory journal. It's not a good journal. A good journal can also have the author fees. So it is their pricing model, and publication ethics statement available, and archiving principles are shown. All these are some of the parameters which tells whether or not a journal is good or bad. Next, we have already talked about peer review. It is a process, but it is fundamental to scholarly publication and specifically to journals. And it is the process of subjecting an author's manuscript to the scrutiny of others who are experts in the same field prior to the publication of the journal. And it is universally accepted that the peer review will, peer reviewing will improve the validity, significance, and originality of the work. Now, when we talk about peer reviewing, there are three types. The first one is the single blind, the most common. That means what do you mean by a single blind? I submit an article to a journal. So the reviewer will be knowing who has published. My name will also be sent along with the article. So I will not be knowing to whom it has been sent. As an author will not know to whom the article has been sent for reviewing. On the other hand, the reviewer will know whose article it is. That is called single blind system of peer reviewing. Double blind system of peer reviewing means neither the author nor the reviewer will know the names. The reviewer will get only the content of your article, and the publisher will remove the author's and other affiliation details and send it for review. And this is accepted as one of the best method of reviewing, because one should not get biased by in the reviewing process. So this eliminates the bias on the part of reviewer. And open, that means the author will be knowing who is reviewing, and the reviewer will know who are the authors of that particular article. So these are different types of peer reviewing system available in journals. Make sure that which one your journal follows, which method follows. And we have already discussed about the peer review process, so just go ahead. Now, this peer reviewing system and journal publication systems were evolved with the concept of having a quality in publication. But unfortunately, people have followed the shortcuts for publishing their articles, and the publishers have got shortcuts for amassing the money in a simple manner. So this has led to the emergence of predatory journals. Predatory means low quality journals. And let us talk more about the predatory journals. And these predatory journals have emerged just to sideline the peer review process. Many researchers found it very difficult to get through the peer review. So the publishers, they came up with the predatory journals wherein no review system will be there, they just publish. And predatory journals have also evolved because of the justification that they gave is the reduction in communication cost, and also the publish and perish syndrome made the researcher to publish 2 articles or 3 articles before he submit the thesis. So somehow it has to be published. So we don't normally bother about quality of the journals. We go for the predatory journals, and the checks and balances are being introduced by UGC to cut short this habit. And introduction of academic performance index, API by UGC and other accreditation bodies, and misuse of author-paid publishing module. Okay, we can call a predatory journal as a fake journal. A fake journal. So it is called fake journals because the predatory journals and publishers are entities that prioritize self-interest at the expense of the scholarship, and are characterized by false or misleading information, deviation from the best editorial and publication practices, and lack of transparency, and or the use of aggressive and indiscriminate solicitation practices. So all these characteristics form the predatory journal. And I would have to emphasize that predatory journals they follow unscrupulous methods to publish the articles. What is a predatory journal? You send an article, it will be accepted in exchange of some money. You give me 2,000 rupees, I will publish it. So without adopting the review process. You may be happy as a researcher today, but in the long run, what happens? This habit of getting it published by some other means will increase, and the quality of publication in that nation will fall down to the normal. So that is what has happened in India. I think I'm going to. Okay. How is predatory journal different from legitimate journal? The legitimate journal, the predatory journal, will have the primary objective to make money through article processing fee. I'm repeating once again, just because a journal takes the author processing fee, it doesn't mean that they are predatory. Good journals also take author fees, but predatory journals, they take the author processing fees and they do not adopt the review process very seriously, and do not care about the quality, and they go for the false claims and unethical business practices, and fail to follow accepted standards. Now, the important question: how should we identify whether a journal is a predatory or not? These are some of the parameters. The website, there will be no website first of all, or even if websites are there, it is poorly designed and with a lot of spelling and grammar errors, and images are distorted and fuzzy, and the homepage language targets the authors that will be published on predatory journals, and manuscript handling process is there and things like that. And these are other say criteria for publishing the predatory journal. You can see the predatory papers by country and income. Where do we stand? If you see this, we should be ashamed to say Mera Bharat. And India is talking like it's a big town. It's very unfortunate that we have so much of predatory journals and predatory articles. And in the last session, Sat was discussing about UGC care journals, and UGC is coming out with a list of journals. It is called white list of journals, which according to UGC are not predatory. Unfortunately, the list is also contains predatory journals. To the extent of 30 to 40%. To the extent of 30 to 40%, but UGC has been trying its best to overcome this problem. Maybe in a year or two, they will come up with some good, reliable list of journals. And one thing that they have blindly accepted is the journals which is indexed by Scopus or WOS may be considered as the good journals. But if the Scopus or WOS themselves contain the predatory journals, then there is no answer for that. Normally, WOS in particular, its inclusion policy is very strict. So you can rest assured that whatever has been publicly indexed by WOS is a good journal, quality journal. And Scopus is a little more flexible in that. And just for the sake of formality, I have identified some of the innovators: Fisher, Imposter, Roger Haas, and Unicorn. So what's the time now? One time. Now, one of the major problems that we need to understand is how to identify a trusted journal. Yes. You're not here? Previous. Okay. And characteristic of the trusted journals. You see, this is one of the rule of the thumb that I am giving you. How to find whether a journal is a good quality journal or not. You ask your colleagues, do they know about journals? Have they read the journals? If they say, yes, I know, then possibly it is a good journal. Ask your guide, ask your other teachers, how about this journal? If they say it is good, then you can rest assured that it is a good journal. That's one of the things that we can follow. And you can also, can you easily identify the contact details of the publisher? The predatory journals, they normally hide their contact details. So, but good quality journals, they do display their contact details without any hesitation. And whether the journal has type of peer review it uses, and whether the articles are indexed in services or not, and what fees will be charged. Can you recognize, can you or your colleagues recognize the editorial board, and whether the editor, this is most important thing I believe, do the editorial board members mention the journal on their own websites? So if I am an editorial member of a journal, my biodata will have that particular journal's name. That means that I am recognizing that journal. So there is another way of identifying whether a journal is really good or not. And is the publisher a member of recognized industry initiatives? And these things has already been done by Mr. Pranay. Now, all these things are theoretical background about identifying a good journal. Now, let me introduce some of the tools that are available which you can straightaway use to verify whether a journal is a literary or a good journal. Okay. And you can go to this thinkcheckandSubmit.org, where they have given a list of parameters that you can apply to the journal that you are submitting your manuscript to find out whether the journal is a good journal or not. And secondly, okay, from here onwards, probably I want to demonstrate a few things. This is a tool. This is a tool called JANE, Journal Author Name Estimator. And if you are in sciences, biosciences, medical sciences, etc., probably you can use this tool. Go to this website. How many of you have used Web of Science? So how many of you are from science background? Okay. How many of you are from social science background? Okay. So now, can you say me whether Web of Science is more useful for sciences or social sciences? Actually, the phrase Web of Science is misleading. Social science people, they think that it is not for us. But Web of Science is a platform, that's it. It is just a platform. It contains the articles related to the sciences, social sciences, humanities. So all the three faculties will be useful by using the Web of Science. Jane. Now, what we are seeing now is a website which helps us to identify to which journal we may send we may submit our articles to. Okay. Now, this is an article which is still under draft, written by one of my students and myself. And now I want to send. I want to identify the journal. That is the problem that we have now, right? So what I will do is I will copy the abstract and paste the abstract here. So and find the journals, and it will suggest a few journals like this. This particular abstract, based on the abstract, it is suggesting the journals to which I can send the articles, and the article influence, that means how good the journal is So this blue bar indicates the impact of the journals with respect to its previous articles, and the confidence level is just suggesting that possibly your article will be considered for scrutiny by class 1. So something like this. So you will get more information, and you don't have to really ask anybody. You can paste your abstract and find out the good quality journals. So this is one tool that you can make use of it and try with this. Okay. Similarly, one more tool is there. This particular site checks for more than 30,000 journals. 30,000 journals. From among 30,000 journals, it suggests a few journals depending upon the abstract that you are going to give. So, great. So here what I am doing, I am doing the same thing. I am copying the abstract of my article and asking this website to find out suitable or relevant journals for me. So is copying the abstract. Now generally of such. Now these tools you will find it very handy to select the journals. Okay, fine. So I can send my article to BMC publication, published by Springer, and what is the impact? It is a medium impact journal and high impact journals are there, and depending upon your confidence of your article, you can select one of these. So this is another good tool that you can use. Similarly, we do have the tools like Elsevier and Springer. Just show them that's it. In the PPT, it should be sufficient. Show them. Shift F5. Okay. And Springer Nature Journals suggestion is also there. And next. Here, even if you give manuscript title, that should be sufficient. You don't have to give really the abstract. Next. Elsevier, Wiley, Journal, etc. And next. Full-text periodical directory is a very standard directory of journals, international journals, and it gives the details of various journals. Unfortunately, it is not available open source. Your library, you have to enter the library whether they have subscribed for this particular service. It is a comprehensive list of journals in all the fields of knowledge, full-text periodical directory. And Campbell Scholarly Analytics, and gives the wide list of journals to which you can submit your articles. Next. And the open access publishing is really taking up. I think Vasant has already talked about open access journals, so let's get to this particular portion. Next. And I hope you are all familiar with this licensing, what you call licensing types. So if an article is in the journal has this particular symbol, CC by, that means any article from that journal can be copied, can be distributed, can be modified. Only thing is you have to give attribution to it. You have to give the reference to it. With giving the new reference, you can do. So this is open access content. You can make use of it. So if you want to take a cartoon, for example, for your article, then if it is CC by, if it is written as CC by, you can make use of it. Only thing is you have to give the proper attribution to it. Okay. So these are various licensing agreements, and all are open access. The most used is CC by. Okay, next. And there are Shepra services, one is Romeo, another is Juliet, and Open Door. Okay, so next. So what I will do is we just go through this particular website. Very quite interesting. So you will understand what exactly is Shepra Romeo and Shepra Juliet. Next. And directory of open access journals are there. Now, open access journals means no subscription fees. It is available free. It is available free to everybody. Okay. So there is a feeling that if you publish your articles in open access journals, then the citations that you will get will increase. Because a lot of people will look into your journal, and the chances of getting citation is more if you publish in open access journals. So you can try publishing in open access journals. Okay, open access journals means it is free for the users, and not for the authors. They may charge some author fees. Not all of them, some of them, they may charge author fees, but for the users, it is completely free for use. Next. UGC here we have already discussed, and these are some of the citation databases that I have already talked about, and also by introducing one or two concepts, I will close my session today. Whenever we talk about the scopus, web of science, etc., we are talking about impact factor. So your guide may say, publish it in good impact factor journal. So where do I get the impact factor from? Actually, impact factor is based on the data, citation data available in Web of Science. Impact factor is related to Web of Science only. Web of Science. And if the particular journal is not indexed in impact factor, in Web of Science, there will not be impact factor at all. And Scopus also calculates what is called site score. Site score, CITESCORE. So it is an equivalent of impact factor. Scopus calls, it doesn't call it as impact factor, it calls it as site score. So you can go by the site score or impact factor to select your journal. Higher the impact factor, better the quality of the journal. But be sure that it is not falsely claimed by the journals. And no good journal will will publish its impact factor on the journal itself. They will not do that. The journal which say my impact factor is 4.5, 2.1, etc. is probably most likely a paid journal. Okay, that we need to understand. Next. Okay. This he has already talked about. Preprint servers also, I think Vasant has already told, and there are preprint servers to which you can submit your articles and they will accept it, and if journal publishers, if they find it useful, they will contact you and they will take the articles from there and publish the articles in their journals. So one of the articles published by Vasant has got published something like this. So you can show them. Next. So this article got published in this Elsewhere journal. So like this, there are various techniques of identifying good journals, and I wish all of you to publish only in good journals, not in predatory journals. And I hope some of the techniques that I have told you will be of some help to identify the journals to which you have to send your articles. So with this I will close my discussion for the day, and I will be very happy to receive questions if any.
Sir, I have one question, is that what is the best for me if I wanted to publish an article in a journal? Of course that journal has peer review. For social sciences, it is best that the best thing is that you send it for blind peer review or single peer review. Single blind or double blind?
No,
I mean, if my article gets double blind peer review, it will be high citation, more reliable one, high index like this.
that is true. No, you see, whether it is as far as the review type is concerned, you don't have any choice. Okay, you cannot insist that your paper should be double blind reviewed or single blind reviewed, etc. So, don't worry about the kind of review system that they adopt, but make sure that the journal to which you submit your article has a review system. You are worried about the plagiarism of the data that you are going to send, that you are submitting.
While picking our which is a suitable journal for us, for our paper, then what about the plagiarism? What is that?
Okay. See, before sending the article to your journal, you will perform the plagiarism test. And similarly, the publisher will also have his own method of checking for the plagiarism. And the plagiarism based on, you will not reveal the tolerance level. Okay, the publisher will not reveal the tolerance level, but he will have some benchmark, maybe 5%, 10% or whatever. So then he will communicate to you back, saying that most of these are plagiarized, so you will not be accepted. Or you will also say that these aspects you have to rewrite once again. So something like that you will get in.
I have one.
Yes.
How do we come to know about the UGC also contains predatory journals, and after knowing predatory, why they should not eliminate it?
They do have that system of removing the journals from the UGC list. It is not that once it is enlisted in the list, it cannot be removed. It is not like that. It can be removed.
About citation, clarify me, downloading a paper is countable for citation.
Repeat question.
Downloading a paper from the
No. Downloading paper doesn't go for citation, but there is another metric that is coming up. It is called alt metrics. Alt metrics, wherein the alt metrics data will take care of downloading of the paper also. But citation doesn't. No, feature article means it will talk about the upcoming concept in a particular area. So they will identify certain area for publication and something like a special issue. Something like a special issue. It can be published. If your area of research is that, you can publish the feature article also. It is a kind of an invited paper rather than you are submitting the paper.
So what is working paper?
Working paper means you are working on a research project and you want to in advance, you want to tell the kind of research work that you are involved in. So that can also be communicated.
Like a proposal? Like
Huh?
a proposal?
Something like a proposal. Something like a proposal.
And also if there is an emerging subject, okay, we can build a working paper and we can submit all this.
The justification given for taking APCs is that the journals need to sustain. So there are some journals which don't take any APCs. So how do they sustain? Are they just taking the APCs because they can? Or is it really necessary?
No, actually sustenance model is very difficult for journals. So unless you see it depends upon the popularity of the journal, and libraries are the main source of income for them. If lots of libraries are subscribing to a journal, they will not normally go for ABC. And that subscription, library subscription as a resource for the publisher, will normally, those journals will have very expensive subscription rate. Okay, but those journals which are not very popular, they go for ABC, and those which are open access, they go for ABC model.
Sir, if in case like a library has subscribed to a particular journal, then all the research scholars who come under those libraries, will it be free for them?
No. So if they have ABC, if the journal has ABC policy, they will still collect it, but always you can negotiate with them.
I can add, there is a one plan now called Plan is, okay? Plan is, there is a one initiative called Plan is. Plan is that, set up, publishers are coming together, and if a particular library subscribe that, set up journals, they may have APCs. Okay, that journal should come under Plan is. It's a German initiative, and India is also part of that. Okay, but the problem
But it is not very popular as of now.
it's evolving. It's evolving.
It is evolving.
It's not Plan is.
ಜರ್ನಲ್ಸ್ ಇದ್ದಾವೆ ಮತ್ತು ಎರಡನೇ ಗ್ರೂಪಲ್ಲೂ ಇದ್ದಾವೆ ಸರ್. ಬಟ್ ಆದರೆ ಮತ್ತು ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಪಬ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್ ಜರ್ನಲ್ಸ್ ಇದ್ದಾವೆ, ಮಂತ್ಲಿ ಪಬ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್ ಜರ್ನಲ್ಸ್ ಇದ್ದಾವೆ.
UGC ಕೇಳಿ 2 ಗ್ರೂಪ್ ಇದೆ, ಗ್ರೂಪ್ 1 ಮತ್ತು ಗ್ರೂಪ್ 2 ಅಂತ. ಗ್ರೂಪ್ 1 ಜರ್ನಲ್ಸ್ ಯಾವುದು ಅಂದರೆ ಯಾವ ಜರ್ನಲ್ಸ್ಗಳು ಸ್ಕೋಪಸ್ ಮತ್ತು WOS ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇಂಡೆಕ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿದೆಯೋ ಆ ಜರ್ನಲ್ಸ್ನ ಸ್ಟ್ರೈಟ್ ಅವೇ ಅವರು ಹೋಗ್ತಾರೆ, ಅದನ್ನು ಗ್ರೂಪ್ 1 ಜರ್ನಲ್ ಅಂತ ಕರೀತಾರೆ. ಗ್ರೂಪ್ 2 ಜರ್ನಲ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಯಾವುದು ಸ್ಕೋಪಸ್ ಮತ್ತು WOS ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇಂಡೆಕ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಆದರೆ ಅದು ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಜರ್ನಲ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟೀಸಿಂದ ಅಥವಾ ಪಬ್ಲಿಷರ್ಸಿಂದ ರೆಕಮೆಂಡ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೋ ಅದಕ್ಕೊಂದು ಪ್ರೋಸೆಸ್ ಇದೆ, ಅದು ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗೋದಕ್ಕೆ. ಅಂತಹ ಜರ್ನಲ್ಸ್ನ ಗ್ರೂಪ್ 2 ಜರ್ನಲ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹಾಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಅಂದರೆ ಗ್ರೂಪ್ 2 ಜರ್ನಲ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿರುವಂಥ ಜರ್ನಲ್ಸು ನಾರ್ಮಲಿ ಗ್ರೂಪ್ 1 ಜರ್ನಲಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂದರೆ ಅಥವಾ ಸ್ಕೋಪಸ್ ಅಥವಾ ವೆಬ್ ಸೈನ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಇಂಡೆಕ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿರಲ್ಲ. ಅದೇನುವಂಥದ್ದು ಯೂನಿವರ್ಸಿಟೀಸಿಂದ ರೆಕಮೆಂಡ್ ಆಗಿರುವಂತಹ ಜರ್ನಲ್ಸ್ನ ಗ್ರೂಪ್ 2 ಜರ್ನಲ್ಸ್ ಹಾಕಿ.
ಸರ್
ಎಸ್,
ಇದು ಈ ಕ್ಯಾಬಿನೆಟ್ನಲ್ಲಿರುವಂತಹ ಜರ್ನಲ್ಸ್ಗಳಿಗೆ ಅವರ ಪ್ರಕಟಣೆಯ ಫೀಸ್ ಏನಾದರೂ ಅದರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಏನಾದರೂ UGC ಏನಾದರೂ ತೀರ್ಮಾನಗಳಿವೆಯಾ, ನಿಯಮಾವಳಿಗಳೇನಾದರೂ ಇದೆಯಾ? ಅವರು ಫೀಸ್ ಕಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಆರ್ಟಿಕಲ್ ಪ್ರಕಟ ಆಗಬೇಕಿದೆ. ಅವರು ಈಗ ನನಗೆ ಅನುಭವಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದದ್ದು ಒಂದು ಪತ್ರಿಕೆಗೆ ನಾನು ಕಳಿಸಿದ್ದೆ, ಅಷ್ಟಾಗುವಾಗ ಕಳಿಸುವಂತಹ ಅವರ ಅಡ್ವರ್ಟೈಸ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ನನಗೆ ಮೇಲ್ ಬಂದು ಇಷ್ಟು ಫೀಸ್ ಕಟ್ಟಬೇಕು ಅಂತೇಳಿ.
ಅಂಥದ್ದನ್ನೇ ಪ್ರೆಡೇಟರಿ ಜರ್ನಲ್ ಅಂತ ಕರೀತಾರೆ. ಆದರೆ ಆಥರ್ ಫೀಸ್ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಆಥರ್ ಫೀಸ್ನ ಅವರು ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಆಗಿ ಅವರ ವೆಬ್ಸೈಟಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳಿರಬೇಕು, ಮುಂಚೆನೇ ಹೇಳಿರಬೇಕು. ಸೊ ನಾರ್ಮಲಿ ಗುಡ್ ಜರ್ನಲ್ಸ್ ಆ ಥರ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಅದಿಲ್ಲದೆ ಇದ್ರೆ ಬಹುಶಃ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಪ್ರೆಡೇಟರಿ ಜರ್ನಲ್.
ಆದರೆ ಆ ಪುಸ್ತಕಕ್ಕೆ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಫೇಮಸ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ.
ಆ ಪರ್ಟಿಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಜರ್ನಲ್ UGC ಕೇರ್ ಲಿಸ್ಟ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಅಕಸ್ಮಾತಾಗಿ ಸೇರಿರಬಹುದು. ಅದನ್ನು ಪ್ರೂವ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ತೆಗಿತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಪೀರಿಯಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಯು ವಿಲ್ ಗೆಟ್ ಎ ಗುಡ್ ಕ್ವಾಲಿಟಿ ಲಿಸ್ಟ್.
ಸರ್ ಇದು ಟೂಲ್ಸ್ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಟೂಲ್ಸ್ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ ಜನರಲ್ ಸಂಸ್ಕೃತಿಗೆ ಟೂಲ್ಸ್ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ, ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಅಬ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗ್ತದ, ಅದು ಸಜೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತದೆ. ಅವಾಗ ಬರೀ ಮಿಲಿಟರಿ ಜರ್ನಲ್ಸ್ ಕೂಡ ಸಜೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ.
ಮಾಡಬಹುದು ಬಟ್ ನಾವು ಸರ್ ನಾರ್ಮಲಿ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ, ಯಾಕೆಂದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇಂಪ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಇರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ. ಆದರೆ ಒಂದು ಲೆವೆಲಲ್ಲಿ ಅದ್ರ ಬದಲೇ ತಕ್ಕ ನಾವು ಪ್ರೇರಣೆ ಅಥವಾ ಪ್ರೇರಣೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ನಾವು ಒಂದು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ನೋಡ್ಬೇಕಾಗ್ತದೆ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ 80 to 90% ಆಫ್ ದ ಟೈಮ್ ಗುಡ್ ಕ್ವಾಲಿಟಿ ಜರ್ನಲ್ ಇದೆ. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ಸ್. Okay, I think there are no more questions. Thank you very much for the patient hearing. Thank you very much.
ಸಾಧನೆಯ ಹಾದಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಕಲ್ಲುಗಳು ಮುಳ್ಳುಗಳು ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಇರ್ತವೆ. ಅದನ್ನು ಗುರುತಿಸಿಕೊಂಡು ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಬೇಕಾದಂತಹ ರಕ್ಷಣೆಯನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ನಾವು ಮುನ್ನಡೆಯಬೇಕಾಗಿದೆ. ಆ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಈ ಸಂಶೋಧನೆಯ ಹಾದಿಯೂ ಕೂಡ ಅಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಸಾಧನೆಯ ಹಾದಿ. ಆ ದಾರಿಯಲ್ಲಿರುವಂತಹ ಕಲ್ಲು ಮುಳ್ಳುಗಳನ್ನು ಗುರುತಿಸುವಂತಹ ಕಲೆಯನ್ನು ನಮಗೆ ಈ ತರಗತಿಯಿಂದ ನಾವು ಅರಿತಿದ್ದೇವೆ ಎಂಬುದಾಗಿ ಬಹುಶಃ ನಿಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರ ಪರವಾಗಿ ನಾನು ಅನಿಸಿಕೆಯನ್ನು ವ್ಯಕ್ತಪಡಿಸುತ್ತಾ ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಸಂಪನ್ಮೂಲ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಯಾದಂತಹ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಎಸ್ ಹರಿನಾರಾಯಣ ಸರ್ ಅವರಿಗೆ ನನ್ನ ವೈಯಕ್ತಿಕ ನೆಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಕೃತಜ್ಞತೆಗಳನ್ನು ಅರ್ಪಿಸುತ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ಮುಂದಕ್ಕೆ ಔಪಚಾರಿಕವಾಗಿ ಕೃತಜ್ಞತೆಯನ್ನು ಅರ್ಪಿಸುವುದಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಭಾಗ್ಯ ಅವರಲ್ಲಿ ವಿನಂತಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ.
ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಶುಭ ಮಧ್ಯಾಹ್ನ. ಈ 6 ದಿನದ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮೊಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಅಥವಾ ಈ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಹರಿನಾರಾಯಣ ಸರ್ ಅವರಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರಿಗೆ ಹೇಗೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಬಾವಿ ಹೇಗಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಫುಲ್ ಆಗಿರುವುದಿಲ್ಲ, ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ನೀರಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಈಗ ಆ ಪೊಸಿಷನಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರಿದ್ದೀರ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ನೀವೆಲ್ಲ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಫುಲ್ ಇಲ್ಲದ ಬಾವಿ ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ, ಫುಲ್ ಆಗಿರುವ ಬಾವಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಸರ್. ಈಗ ನೀರು ತುಂಬಿಸಿ ನಮ್ಮನ್ನು ಇಷ್ಟರವರೆಗೆ ಮೇಲೆ ತಂದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಆ ನೀರು ಹೇಗಾಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ತುಂಬಿ ತುಳುಕ್ಬೇಕು, ಹೇಗಾಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು ತುಂಬಿ ತುಳುಕ್ಬೇಕು, ಆ ಥರ ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ ಆಗಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಸರ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಈ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದಲ್ಲಿ ಸರ್ ನಮ್ಮ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಬಂದು ಇಷ್ಟೆಲ್ಲ ಸಲಹೆಗಳಾಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಹೊಸ ವಿಚಾರಗಳಾಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಹೊಸ ವಿಚಾರಧಾರೆಗಳನ್ನು ನಮಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇವರಿಗೆ ನನ್ನ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಹಾಗೂ ನಮ್ಮ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಯ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಹಾಗೂ ಸಂಶೋಧನಾರ್ಥಿಗಳ ಪರವಾಗಿ ಧನ್ಯವಾದವನ್ನು ಹೇಳಲು ಇಷ್ಟಪಡ್ತೇನೆ. ಹಾಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಯ ಕೋಆರ್ಡಿನೇಟರ್ ಆದ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಚಿದಾನಂದ ಸರ್ ಅವರು ಅವರಿಗೆ ಸ್ಮರಣಿಕೆಯನ್ನು ನೀಡಿ ಧನ್ಯವಾದವನ್ನು ಅರ್ಪಿಸಬೇಕಂತ ಕೇಳಿಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತೇನೆ.